seen you for a while. It's great seeing you.
Nice to see you.
And this was something you were just talking about the last time I saw you, and now it's out. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
So what a year that you have had. 18 months ago, you were a school teacher.
Yep.
And your whole life just changed.
Yeah, it sure did.
Yeah.
Did not see that coming.
No, because you weren't dating him at all. Well, you were dating him, but it didn't look like he was going to run for president.
No, and on our first date, which I talk about in the book, like I was so tired of bad dates. I remember on the first date being like, I might be too forthcoming, because I was like, what's your plan for the next 5 years of your life, right? And he's like trying to just have a beer with me. And I didn't mean it politically, but I definitely did not see a presidential campaign coming.
Right. And it really did change your life in major ways. And you really, in the book, you share a lot of your struggles that you've had. Mm-hmm. Were you scared to be that honest?
Yeah, because in politics, you are just not supposed to be vulnerable. I think a lot of people in politics and in public life in general think that vulnerability somehow makes you weak. And when I was out on the trail, I would talk about my experiences with medical debt, student debt, being a first-generation college student. I even opened up about sexual assault on the campaign trail and in the book. And I found that when you talk about those really hard things, it helps other people feel less alone. And so at first, I was so confused about who to be on the campaign trail, and then I realized if I'm just myself, and if I talk about all of these sticky, confusing, heartbreaking things, then other people feel a connection to somebody else. They feel less alone. It builds them up. But putting it in a book to send out to the world was a little nerve-wracking. Yeah.
But I'm glad you did, because like you said, it's really important for people to see that we all have something that we're struggling with. Yeah. And I thank you for mentioning me in the book. It's very sweet. So you grew up in North Michigan, very conservative family, and you never really, there's a story in here, you never really fit in. Explain what you were doing inside while your brother was outside.
No, so my brothers were probably like skinning a deer or chopping wood, you know. It was like a very hyper-masculine environment, and I was usually like dusting cabinets and reenacting My Heart Will Go On while my mother was folding laundry. And when you come out and you're like, the hints were there. Yeah. You know? They said they didn't know, but I did like black sheep, like did not blend in.
Yeah, no, when you're singing Celine Dion at a young age, dusting cabinets, and your brother's out there hunting, it's...
Yeah, and they're like, he's different. He's special. But the thing was, my family didn't have the language for what it meant to be gay. And I mention you in the book because you were the first gay person I knew. You were on television. You know, I'd come home from school and my mom would watch you. And I remember thinking this monster inside of me, right? This gay demon that is eating me alive inside, that everyone, like society, my government, is telling me, you are twisted, you are wrong. But my mom's watching you on television, and she likes you, and she's laughing at you. And it gave me, a little sliver of hope that, well, maybe, just maybe it won't be so bad.
Yeah. Well, thanks. That's, everybody needs representation, We need to show everybody on television. And that is the way to start conversations. You were so scared to tell your grandmother. I know you adored your grandmother, and I think that's the story for most people. Portia, everyone was scared to tell her grandmother at the time, too. But so tell that story.
Well, and it was the hardest part of the book to write, because when the bad boyfriends, the breakups, the homophobia, that stuff was like, I've had enough therapy to work through that stuff. But we lost my grandma a few months after Peter and I were married, and she was our staunchest ally. But when I came out, the general consensus was, do not tell grandma, it will break her heart. And it was eating me alive that this person I loved so much didn't know this thing about me. And I think it was Thanksgiving, and I asked her if we could go out to her car and talk. I was watching her rosary hanging from the rearview mirror, and I just said, Grandma, I have to tell you something, and I lost it. And she reached over, and she wore all these really sharp, big rings, and they just dug into my hand because she was gripping my hand so tight. And she said, I know, and I love you just the same.
That's what you want. That's what you want. She must have seen you singing Celine Dion songs. I mean, that must have been the tip-off. So, and you also talk about one of your first dates with Pete to go to the White House, and you saw the Obamas.
Yeah, so dating Pete, feel like an imposter. I do not belong in these spaces. He asked if I owned a suit. I did not. I had never owned a suit in my life. He bought me a suit. He takes me to Washington to go to the White House Christmas party. And, you know, the Obamas come in, they say some hellos, and then they're starting to shake hands and whatnot. And Pete's like, go up there, go say hi. I was like, I cannot say hi to the president and the first lady. He encourages me, and so I finally start working my way through the crowd, and I'm reaching my arm over the guy in front of me to shake his hand, and then some jerk comes barreling in behind me, trying to shake his hand as well, and he just knocks me off my balance. And I turn around, I'm like, who did that jerk move? And as my arm is extended, I feel President Obama's hand touch mine, and I turn around, and I recoil. I don't know why. And then I realize mid-recoil that I am recoiling from the President of the United States, so I stopped, and I grabbed his pointer finger. And then I just shook it so vigorously. I was like, Merry Christmas, Mr. President. And he looked at me and he goes, yes. I just figured they would go to bed that night, you know, fluffing their pillows.
I just have that image of you holding. We have to take a break, Chasten. We'll be back.
Okay.
We're back with Chasten Buttigieg, who has a book, I Have Something to Tell You, which is funny and informative and important. And you say that your life will never be normal again, but you're okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird when people catch you smelling deodorant at Target, you know, and want to take a photo of you, but also you have a platform and people are paying attention to what you have to say. And in a way, I feel like now I get to be a person I wish I would have had when I was younger. And sure, it comes with some awkwardness and it comes with some stress, but I want to make sure that I use the most of that moment. And it's such a blessing to be able to show up for people in a way that I wish, you know, I would have seen when I was younger.
Yeah, and you are making a difference for, you know, just like seeing me on television made a difference, people seeing you is going to make a difference. And since you do have that platform and you have kind of learned a lot in a crash course with your husband running for president, and we have an election less than 2 weeks away, what do you have to say?
Well, please vote. You know, I feel like we always say this is the most consequential election of our lifetimes, but it truly is. And I know some people are wringing their hands and thinking that their vote doesn't really impact their life, but think about all of the other lives that are impacted by your privilege to vote. Think of every person's life who can be improved if we make the right choice. If we make the right choice and we elect someone who not only believes that Black lives matter and trans lives matter, that affirms acceptance and equality for LGBTQ people, a Secretary of Education who actually believes in public education. I mean, you have the power to make all of those changes with your vote. And then I would also say do something fun. You know, when you make a plan to vote, my plan is to go vote early, and then I'm going to go to the bakery and get a dozen, you know, and celebrate saving democracy.
Yeah.
What's your plan?
I'm voting and I'm having some wine.
Yeah, see, there you go.
That's what I'm going to do.
Yourself.
But yeah, it is the most important thing. Exactly. Everyone's cheering with their wine right now.
Oh, I like that.
But it is the most important thing that we can do right now is to vote.
Yeah.
We have to. Chasten's book is called I Have Something to Tell You. It's available now, and everyone in the audience is getting a copy. I want to thank Sarah Hyland, Chasten Buttigieg. And I want to thank all of you for watching. I feel the love coming through the screens. I send it back to you. Go out and spread it around in the world out there. Thanks, everybody. Bye.